Well, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Venice, known as UCOV. My name is Amy Petrie Shaw, and I am the worship associate this morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the service this morning, especially any of you who are searching for the first time for a spiritual home. In her poem, A Holy Alchemy, Kim Mason writes, "Once upon a time, chemists believed that they could transform lead into gold or death into life. We laugh, but are we not also in the business of alchemy, turning loneliness into connection and pain into comfort, anger into solidarity, faith into action? The subtle magic of church combines love with justice, creates hope out of fear, transforms individuals into community." Here we engage in a holy alchemy of finding the beauty in the ordinary and life in the present. So come and let us be transformed together. If anyone is here for the very first time and feels comfortable in doing so, please stand up and someone will bring you a mic so you can introduce yourself. Do we have anybody? And if anyone is leaving this week for the North, please raise a hand so we can say bye to you. And just remember, we're now entering into sacred space, so please silence all your electronics that you might have here today.
Okay, announcements. Everybody has this nice little sheet with all these wonderful announcements on it. All right. If you're like me, island village events, that means that the school is doing something, so parking's going to be difficult. So we don't do anything here. There are several things happening right after church today. We have to sing happy birthday to Reverend Amy. And surprise, surprise, eat cake. I know one corner of the cake is already claimed. So if you want a corner, you only got 3 people, so you better rush out. After cake, then we're having a discussion. The Canarellis are going to help us, keep the barbarians from the gate, as we say. We have a couple of big issues here in Sarasota that seem to be very important. One is the hospital board, and the other is the school board. People seem to be wanting to do things that we don't think we would like. So that discussion will be after cake. There are a couple of people who also wanted to give announcements. Richard, I believe you were one of them. Yeah. Would you like to come up here, or you want to take a mic there?
I'm doing the Building Your Own Theology course.
Mic up to your mouth.
I'm building the Build Your Own Theology course. I'm actually running it for this particular next session. Right now, I only have one sign up, and I think I'm not sure he's here right now. Rather than look at what's in the announcements about this, please call me at Village on the Isle at 941-473-9485, isn't it? And ask to speak to Matthews Hall 322 or to me, and leave the message. I get lots of messages that people want to buy things or sell things. And I delete all of them. If I don't get enough people, I'll do these courses later on in the season. Thank you very much for letting me do this.
And then Linda has something she needs to say.
I just want to remind people that the Arts and Crafts Group is Friday, May 3rd at 1 o'clock in Waters Hall. And we're going to be making the beaded things for pocketbooks or walkers or canes or whatever you'd like, and all the supplies are supplied. So if you're interested in doing it, we'll see you Friday the 3rd at 1 o'clock. Yep.
Just want to remind people, we will be doing Meatless Monday. If we have a few people to come earlier and set up, that's like 4:30, we start at 5 o'clock. And just bring your dish to share and bring your utensils, and we try to keep it a zero waste event.
And I
So
believe that's going to be on the
May
6th?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
May 6th, Meatless Monday. They usually start at 5, so if you could get there, what, at 4:30 to help set up?
And clean up.
That would be fabulous. Roxy.
Just a quickie, I don't need a microphone. On Thursday, the transition and change group will meet, but there is something else going on in Waters Hall, so we will either use the dining room or, weather dependent, the screened-in porch for our room.
Okay. We light this chalice, symbol of our purpose, to bring more love and justice into the world. We light this chalice knowing our congregation as a church dispersed across the communities, not bound by walls, but connected through the web of life. That's a new thing, a little gadget there. Pretty neat. Lisa will now play the prelude, Pastoral by Domenico Scarlatti. Thank you very much. The Quilt by Gary Paulsen, which is one of the books of the series that he wrote about the time he stayed with his grandmother on a farm in Minnesota. The woman cleared off the kitchen table and spread the 4 chairs out in a circle around it. Another woman got the sheet bag with the colored cloth in it and put it on the table. And for a moment, they all sat in chairs or on boxes, sipping coffee. They seemed to be waiting for something, and at first, the boy could not tell why they were waiting. And then Martha came down the stairs and into the kitchen. She was wearing a man's work shirt over her dress and held a wash basin with cool water and a small cloth hanging on the side. His grandmother stood and said, "Sometimes it is good to think of old things, old ways, and do the old stories when there is nothing to do but wait." And now the gray-haired woman took a folded quilt from the bag, and the woman stood and put their cups down on the counter, well away from the table. And each took a portion of the quilt and spread it out so the table was under the center, and the boy stood up and could see that it was very large and made of dozens of patches. Almost all the squares had words embroidered in the middle, and the boy wished he could read. The quilt was spread out, held by the women. They looked down at the cloth, then up at each other. The room grew quiet, breathlessly silent, and he looked at the women's hands holding the edges of the quilt, and none of them gripped hard, but seemed instead to almost caress the cloth, and he knew that he was seeing a sweet thing, a dear thing, like when his mother's face was looking down on him as he awoke from a nap. And if you would stand, if you were willing and able, to sing the gathering hymn 123, Spirit of Life. It's nice when you get to pick the hymn. That's one of my favorites. Makes the old goosebumpily every time. The offering now will be given in the spirit that Reverend Amy has brought to this congregation that I just adore. A frog went into the bank. He wanted a loan. He wanted to go on vacation. So he stopped at the desk where the loan officer was, Patricia Wack. He introduced himself. He was Keith Richards, Jr. She listened to his story. She said, well, usually we get some kind of collateral. Do you have collateral? He pulled out of his pocket a ceramic elephant. She said, what kind of collateral is that? I'm going to have to go talk to my boss. So she gets her boss, and he comes into the office, and he says, hey, listen, that's a knick-knack, paddywhack. Give the frog the loan. His old man is a rolling stone. And we will now have the offering.
Pam, thank you for that joke. And thank each and every one of you for not only these gifts, but for absolutely everything you do for the life and the work of this community. Because we all know the church isn't about the building. It's about being a community of human hands and human hearts. And we come together here to share our laughter and our tears and to bear witness and to minister to one another as we struggle with life's sorrows and celebrate life's joys. We're entering into our time of sharing joys and concerns. As always, you can raise a hand and someone will bring you a mic. We ask please share only with permission. You can light a candle up at the candle table prior to the service or at any other point in the service, but during joys and concerns, I will light for you. I have a couple of joys. My dad is coming home from rehab today, so he's getting out again. Keep your fingers crossed. We had a lovely Seder on the 23rd, thanks to an amazing amount of work by a group of people. Steve Simon, Ellen Higdon, Jan Simon, Dennis Higdon, wonderful, wonderful work. Everybody, thank you. Steve Leapley, Eileen Leapley, who helped set up and clean up. Thank you to everybody else who was there. We just had a marvelous time. It really was great. So it's a joy. Let's see, I had one more. Oh, and another big joy. Thank you to all the painters who have been helping get the new parsonage ready. It looks lovely. We stopped in yesterday to see it. What an incredible group of people. What a joy. So if you have a joy or you have a concern, please raise your hand.
Well, I have a joy and a concern. Looking around the church this morning, I see spring colors, spring smiles, spring hats, and Lisa's piece by Scarlatti made me think of spring flowers and color and birds singing. My concern is that someone died yesterday, and I did not know this person well, but I knew the sister well. I felt that this entire family has had a litany of suffering in each of their lives. And in this instance, it was a young man whose body grew old and failed in a manner that left him blind, bedridden, and finally in hospice care in a hospital in Iowa. So in a way, as I expressed to my friend, his living spirit is released into a spirit that will be remembered by all those who knew him.
I'm Donna Jewett, and I want to thank Amy for continuing to be with us, and we forgot to sing happy birthday to her. So I think we should do that.
Hi, I'm Tom Boyd. I don't do this very often, but I do have 3 celebrations. I have 3 granddaughters graduating when we get home. We're starting Saturday at Ohio University for Maggie. The next Saturday, College of Worcester for Evelyn. And 2 weeks later, high school for Ella. So we have a lot of celebrating to do when we get home.
Speaking of graduations for granddaughters, Pat and I will not be here again next Sunday because we will be in Alabama and we're going to Auburn University to see her youngest granddaughter, Hope, graduate.
I didn't have a joy when I came in, But in looking across, I see that Steve Doublestein is here this morning, so I have a joy to see him back with us. I know I'm embarrassing him, but it's a joy to see you, Steve.
This body doesn't run.
My youngest grandson, Andy, is graduating from Michigan this next week. And he is going to have another later in the day. It's a big graduation. They're going to have a special award ceremony. And then he will probably be going to MIT, where he's been admitted for his doctorate program.
Still you. Guess we're good.
May the love of this community hold all who need love and concern, and may the light of the community shine on the broken places of the world. May we never look away when we're needed. May those who are grieving be comforted, and those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. I ask you to join me now in 1 minute of silent thought, meditation, or prayer.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. And he would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two. Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging comes. Not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water wasn't rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
I met Peter at the GA in Nashville, Tennessee. He had just recently become a Unitarian, and that's the song he wrote about that experience in his life. And I love it, and I wanted to share it.
Pam selected an absolutely gorgeous reading this morning that I had not seen before. It's called The Farmer's Creed by Frank Mann. I believe a man's greatest possession is his dignity, and that no calling bestows this more abundantly than farming. I believe hard work and honest sweat are the building blocks of a person's character. I believe that farming, despite its hardships and disappointments, is the most honest and honorable way a man can spend his days on earth. I believe my children are learning values that will last a lifetime and can be earned no other way. I believe farming provides education for life, and that no other occupation teaches so much about birth and growth and maturity in such a variety of ways. I believe many of the best things in life are indeed free. The splendor of a sunrise, the rapture of wide open spaces, and the exhilarating sight of your land greening every spring. I believe true happiness comes in watching your crops ripen in the field, your children grow tall in the sun, and your whole family feel the pride that springs from their shared experience. I believe that by my toil I am giving more to the world than I am taking, an honor that does not come to all men. I believe my life will be measured ultimately by what I have done for my fellow man, and by this standard I fear no judgment. I believe that when a man grows old and sums up his days, he should be able to stand tall and feel pride in the life that he has lived. I believe in farming because it makes all of this possible.
Books come from very strange places and very strange events. And this book came from sitting on a dead horse while snow gently fell. We didn't have a phone, but a neighbor came and told us he had received a call that someone had a dead horse and they wanted to bring it. It was not unusual for us to get an animal that had died or had to be put down, a cow, a pig, a horse. We were raising horses for the Iditarod. We were raising dogs for the Iditarod. So It was a good way to not waste the animal that had died or of old age or possibly pneumonia, which happened often in early winter. And since it was winter, we could keep the animal and store it. It made great dog food. So another call about a horse was not unusual. I told my neighbor that we would expect it, but I wasn't expecting what actually came. It was about 2 hours later, and a large truck backed up the driveway. It was the kind of truck that it would hold 16 cords of wood, a huge flat semi with a hydraulic arm on the back with a clamshell grasp that could grab onto the logs. Our driveway was narrow and threaded through trees, so I really couldn't see the truck itself. But the back of the truck, as he gently jacked it around to where the kennels were, there, sitting on that enormous flatbed truck, was a horse bigger than I had ever seen before. It filled that entire truck. It was kind of a brown color, almost a tan. The feet were laid out in my direction, and the hooves looked like giant frying pans, huge, flat, black, flat. The driver's side door opened, and the driver went from the cab to the back of the truck, sat in the chair that operated the hydraulic lift. He never touched the ground. He hit some levers and the clamshell hung over the body of that horse. "Where do you want it?" he said. I pointed to a spot near the kennel. He looked, grabbed the horse with that clamshell in a gentle, almost surgical way, lifted the horse, and the shift of the weight, the truck groaned. I thought it would turn over. He had not set the brace arms down, but he took the horse gently, very quickly, and put it next to the kennel. And the truck resettled itself. The horses was there. The dogs were yelling. They could smell the horse. They knew the horse was for them. We had about 40 dogs at that time. I knew there was somebody else in the truck on the passenger side, but the angle of the truck and the light, I couldn't tell who it was, but the door opened, and a man stepped out, a very old man. Now, I know that age is really relative. You know, I've known people who were 40 and old. And Norman Vaughan ran the Iditarod at the age of 86. And I was at half his age, hard to keep up with him. But this man, he was past that relativity. He was old. His hands were bent with age and crooked, and his back was curved in a way that you knew he would never straighten out again. His cap sat low on his head, and he wore a long denim coat so that his body was almost hidden. The bill of the cap hid his eyes, and I could not see them until he looked up, and there they were, bright blue, the snow blue of the sky. "Gunderson," he said as he reached out his hand to shake mine. "Gunderson Peterson. This was my horse. I thought I'd tell you about him." The dogs were barking and snapping. I thought he was going to continue to talk, but the driver had gotten into the truck and was going down the driveway, and the rev of the diesel engine even silenced the horses, and the man stopped talking. I was unsure as to why he did not get into the truck himself and leave, but he just said he's going to pick up a load of wood just a little north of here. He'll come back for me later. I thought it was strange. But maybe he just didn't like riding in the truck or sitting in the truck, and he just kind of looked at me and said, "He was my horse, and he is done now, and I thought I might tell you about him." The horse's name was Harold. I had a son named Harold once, and they both had the same color hair. Harold the son and Harold the horse. Do you think it's strange that you would name a horse the same as you would name a son? And he went to the horse, and he sat on the shoulder, just almost we became neck. He spit a tobacco hole in the snow, and he beckoned me to sit next to him. I hadn't moved. I considered going in the house and getting him some coffee, but I was drawn to him, and I sat right next to him on the horse. He patted the horse right there where the shoulder became neck. And I noticed his hands were bare, and the snow that was falling on the hands did not melt quickly. It laid there. And he petted the horse, and then he took some leather chopping mittens out of his pocket and put them on. He was crying. I hadn't noticed he was crying before, but as he put the mittens on, I could see the tears in his eyes. Let me tell you about the time when the only thing we had was horses. I want to tell you about what it was like, and I looked away. All I could think that there are times and things to know about someone and times not to know, and times not to write about. But he continued in a strong voice, "I want to tell you about the horse. The horse." Harold was as new as anything I ever had in my life. Harold the horse and Harold the son. I got a mare from a neighbor. She was worthless, couldn't pull worth a dime. But I had her bred, and she gave me Harold. And when Harold was born, I could tell he was going to be a good horse. Let me tell you about plowing. How we plowed with the horses. You could close your eyes, you could see it. We would team of 2 or team of 4 horses, and we would plow a field. The dirt split like black butter. You could throw a seed in it. It was so rich you could actually see it grow. And at the end of the row, the horses stopped, and they blew, and the heat, and they cleaned. And young boys came with pails of cool water to throw on the horses. And then we turned and did a row, and another row, and another row. And it was like cream, not with all the chemicals like now, not like dried shit, but it would pull off the moldboard just like sweet cream. And that's when we had horses, just horses. Harold wasn't my first horse. It wasn't even my third or my sixth. My grandfather and my father, they worked the farm I have now before me. And at one point we had 6 horses. 6 horses that shook the ground when they walked. In the wintertime, we would take wood pulp down to the railroad siding, and the paper company would come pick it up. And there would be so many horses, you couldn't even count them. They were horses long before we had tractors. And I thought I knew. I said to him, I don't really need to have this horse. The dogs do not need to eat this horse. I'll get a neighbor's tractor and we'll pull him back into the woods, and in the spring when the ground gets soft, we will bury the horse. No, he said. No. Again in that strong voice, he said no. He was my horse, and we had a life together, but now he is done, and the dogs must eat of the horse so that he can go on. That's the way things are. And I thought I understood. Running the dogs had become for me almost mythical. Every time I ran them, it was like a prayer. The dogs had become my life. And I understood that he, and as he said, the horses for me were like the dogs are for you. And I thought, the prayer. He has the same prayer. And again, I thought I understood. He took a breath. I thought he was done, but it was obvious he wasn't. And he said, I want to tell you it all. And he told me about the farm and about his son and a daughter who moved to the city and never got married and was no damn good, and a wife that was dead who was worth 5 other wives when she cooked. And he talked about the farm. The farm that the first Pendersons, when they came from the old country, had ripped from the forest with the horses pulling the stumps from the ground. And his life, and the horses, and the farm, and how the farm would not go on because the farm had been passed from father to son who became father to son, and there was no son for his son, and there were no sons after that. And the farm would be taken back by the forest, and there would be no farm. And when he was done talking about his life as it was and as it is and as it will be, And he stopped. And this time, by the light of the house past the kennel, I could tell he was done. Not just taking a breath. And there were still tears. And he got up and he walked to the dogs. And he petted each dog. And the ground now had been covered where there was blood left from the last time the dogs ate. And he petted each dog the same way he had petted the horse. And then he put his mitten back on and walked down the driveway to meet the truck. But before he left, he said, and that is why the dogs must have the horse. It is the only way the horse can go on. He will be part of the dogs because the farm will not go on. But Harold the horse will. And he disappeared in the darkness, and I sat on the horse, and I petted the flank of the horse, and I sat and I thought of everything he said. And then I said, but who will eat the man? How is it that the horse goes on, but the man does not? Who? Who will eat the man? And that's the foreword to this book, which tells you about life on a farm in Minnesota before there were tractors. Thank you. And now we will sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had some cows, E-I-E-I-O, with moo moo here and moo moo there, here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo moo. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had some ducks, E-I-E-I-O. And quack, quack here and quack, quack there, there, quack, there, quack, everywhere, quack, quack. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Now MacDonald he had a horse, E-I-E-I-O. With a neigh, neigh here and a neigh, neigh there, here a neigh, there a neigh, everywhere a neigh, neigh. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother, walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds, Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I'll see you at home in the earth. Could I have that copy of that? Okay. We will extinguish the flame of the chalice, and I send you off with these words. Draw a crazy picture. Write a nutty poem. Sing a mumble grumble song. Whistle through your comb. Do a loony goony dance. Cross the kitchen floor. Put something silly in the world that ain't been there before. And now, may love surround you.